of the most popular and fastest marathons in the world. But this year's staging of the event was in doubt following the devastating floods that followed the half marathon back in October. The organisers were very conscious of the positive impact that the race and the event can have on the rebuilding process, of maximising the financial support to those people that really need it, describing the race as being a big hug to the wounded city as sport becomes hope and helps those who need it most. My name's James C. I'm delighted to have Richard Narurka alongside me, a former World Cup winner, 5th place finisher in the Olympic Games. Richard, it's going to be a day of remembrance, but also a day of celebrating some of the world's best athletes.
Yeah, the organisers have actually put in a moment of silence before the start of this morning's race. And James, as you were saying, it is a day when the city is trying to express its sympathy and support for many of the families of the victims who suffered those devastating floods at the end of October. And we have really witnessed how the city is trying to get back on its feet. The transport system is still not back to normal, and so many of the residents have not returned to their homes. So anyway, a big day of marathon running in store for us. There's the list of the winners from the last 5-6 years. Seaside Lemma with the course record 2:01:48 on the men's side, and there's a list of the women's winners. Great win by the Ethiopian Walkinesh Degafer last year, but the course record from 2 years ago, Amana Bedito, who was actually entered for today's race, but a couple of weeks ago had to pull out with an injury.
And obviously, Richard, another remembrance of Kelvin Kipton, the previous course record holder and the world record holder in the marathon, tragically lost in that road traffic accident, and him and his coach. So that was a real tragedy to the sport, wasn't it?
Yeah, we witnessed his debut here 2 years ago, and that run, that victory really set him up for those 3 amazing marathons between December of 2 years ago and when he broke the world record in Chicago 14 months ago. So yeah, we still very much associate Kiptum's with this race, which is when he really came to fame.
So we've got 2 very strong fields. The elite women are going to be chasing some very fast times. There's reports, aren't there? It keeps getting faster and faster about projected times. Is that women's course record under threat today?
Well, the organisers have been talking about course records or targeting the course record in both men's and women's races. Personally, I think that the women's course record set here 2 years ago is probably within reach of Megetu Alamu. She's the leading female in today's race. The men's course record from last year, Seaside Lemma's 2:01:48, probably a bit harder by comparison, but yeah, both records are being attacked in the 2 elite races today. There is the graphic for Megetu Alamu, the leading female, age 27, ran her best time just earlier this year in London, and has been incredibly consistent over the last 2 years. Got a 2nd and 3rd place finish in Chicago. So they're the course records we mentioned. So those are the world records, actually, and the course records for Chicago, Berlin, London. Valencia sits 4th in the all-time list of course records. That's Seaside Lemma's time from last year. And in the women's division, Valencia actually sits 3rd in all-time course records. Obviously, the world record set just 2 months ago in Chicago by Ruth Chippengatic. But Amana Barisa's course record from 2 years ago, actually Tigist Aseva 2:11:53. So I doubt that they'll move up in those rankings, but it just shows how fast Valencia is, one of the fastest marathons in the world.
Isabel Bat-Doyle on the screen in front of you, and it was 20 national records set here 12 months ago. And that is something that the organisers would love to beat. We had 60 people getting Olympic standards. The Olympic standards, or the world standards, have moved on from those Olympic standards this year. 2:06:30 for men, and 2:23.30 for women. They're the standards to be in those reckonings for the World Championships in Tokyo. But yeah, there's a lot of people with an eye on those national records.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to be focusing on the elite, but there were, you know, thousands, over 35,000 runners entered here, and many of the let's say the good club athletes who've come here from right across Europe and further afield, they're looking for best times. I read somewhere that over 5,000 people had gone under 3 hours in last year's race. So Valencia has really built its reputation as a course for running fast times and personal best times. Evelyn Chichir, one of the top Kenyans, 2:22.11. Well, the race organisers have been talking about getting the most ever athletes under 2:20 in the women's race. I think they had 7 athletes go under 2:20 2 years ago, and that's another target that's been set by the race organisers to see if they can go a little bit better this year.
Yeah, the pacemakers are going to be set with some steady times up front. And there's multiple pacing groups, and there's going to be groups formed, as you said, by just the sheer numbers out there. It is the big race almost to close out what has been a fascinating year, and that Ruth Chapman-Gaidich world record just a few weeks ago. So there's the evolution of this Spanish national record. Novelle's breaking that record last year, 2:05.43. Carlos Mayo's in this year, isn't he, Richard, with maybe an eye on that as well as another couple of other very, very talented Spanish athletes.
Yeah, it's a very strong record that was set here. Tariku Novala's last year, 2:05.48. And on the women's side, Maïda Mayouf, she broke the national record, 2:21.27. Actually, her best time is 2:21.01, which was when she was running for Morocco 2 years ago. So it was between her Moroccan national record and Spanish national record that she switched allegiance. So we've talked very much about the course and how fast it is. We're going to have a look at the course that the runners will cover over the next couple of hours, starting here at the Marathon de Europa and heading down towards the port, past the venue used for the 2008 America's Cup, Vélez Vance, and then going along Malvarosa Beach up into the University District, and they do a slight out and back before heading on to the Blasco Ibanez Avenue, and then up past the 10-kilometre point, and then go on to the one big avenue, the Valladolid Avenue, and then swinging back down towards the well-known football stadium, the Mestalla Stadium, home to FC Valencia, and then back onto the Blasco Ibanez Avenue, and then comes back down towards the beach area at the halfway point. And it's at that point that they head north out back towards the city centre and along the very famous, what's known as the garden route, the Jardí del Turia. 28k, they go past the Torres de Serranos, and then they zigzag their way down into the old town, down the Calle de la Paz, past the town hall, and then heading out west out to the Biopark, which is the zoo in Valencia, and then at 36k, they turn left, coming back into the old town, past the Bull Ring and the famous old North Station, the Estacio del Nord, 38k, and then they swing past the Porta de la Mar, 39.5k, and then through Gulliver's Park, which will bring them back down into this spectacular setting for the start and the finish in the Ciudad de las Artes y las Ciencias. There's the route unchanged from last year.
Yeah, and as we saw one of the graphics that came up earlier, well, look at that, there's almost no elevation on the course. And we had the graphic also of the conditions as well, and almost absolutely perfect. If there is a thing as perfect marathon conditions, it's pretty much up there. And that's why the runners flock here from all around the world. And it's not just the elites, it's the masses as well. It's on one of the bucket lists of those runners looking to get a fast time, looking to get a race experience. And what a great setting here, Richard, for the start and the finish.
Yes, the start is on top of the bridge. It's a couple of 100 metres away from where we're sitting, right by the finish, on top of Monte Olivetti Bridge, actually modelled on the New York Marathon, which starts on the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Not quite as big, this bridge, but that's where the runners will start in a few minutes' time. And as we mentioned a few minutes ago, there's going to be a commemoration for the victims of the flood before we go to the start.
Kenenisa Bekele, one of the world's fastest marathon men of all time, so decorated on the track, multiple Olympic champion, world champion, and was back to business last year with second place, or this year I should say second place in London, but it didn't quite go to plan in the Paris Olympic Games, 39th there, but he's back again, and he says he's not going to retire, Richard, until he breaks the world record.
Yeah, still full of confidence and still hugely motivated to not only improve his best time to a 1:41, but to get close to Kiptum's world record. There he is, Kenenisa, an amazing record going back over 20 years, 3 Olympic titles, and a best in the marathon set in Berlin 5 years ago, 2:01:41. And they're the leading female athletes, led by Magetu Alamu. So 3 athletes have run under 2 hours 20, but Mark Roach, the elite athlete coordinator, a couple of days ago was talking of the possibility of more than 7 athletes trying to go under 2:20.
Yeah, American interest in there. Sarah Hall has been training, I think, with Callie Thackeray in Flagstaff. So what can Sarah Hall improve on? I think it was around about 15th in Boston, 18th in Chicago. But looking to be competitive today.
Valencians en peu al sense que nostra veu la llum salude d'un sol per a ofrenar noves glòries a Espanya, tots a una veu, germans vinga.
So the anthem of Valencia, we are just less than a minute away from the start of the race, and in a few seconds they're going to have a few moments of silence just before they fire the gun, and James and myself will also be silent in those moments.
So we're off. It is the start of the 2024 Valencia Marathon, Trinidad Alfonso EDP. This is a sight to see. 35,000 entries, the world's very best runners here on the streets of Valencia. And it's the start of December and one of the closes of a big year of athletics, of marathon running. And we're looking for some very fast times today, Richard, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to be talking quite a lot about the attack on the course record. I think what is interesting for me is that today we've got some highly experienced runners particularly the Ethiopian runners who are coming back here to run again. Sisay Lema, defending champion, and Kenenisa Bekele probably at the top of that list. But alongside these experienced marathon runners, we've got 4 or 5 very interesting debutants who have established themselves at the shorter distances over 10k and half marathon. And those, particularly the Kenyan debutants, are going to form a fascinating battle between the newcomers, so to speak, and the more experienced marathon runners. I was actually looking, James, that the top 4 Ethiopians have run 70 marathons between them, whereas they're up against these 4 complete newcomers at the marathon, but with incredible records behind them over the shorter distances.
So you might have seen on the left-hand side, the hemispheric, that's what we're looking out from our commentary box here, and it's just an amazing sight, the aerial shots. The thousands of runners, many will be running for charities, many running for their own personal goals, their own personal aims. So up front we'll have some pacemakers that are going to be setting out, looking at around about 61 minutes through the half. Last year's half marathon split was brisk. They went through that halfway point in 60 minutes and 35 seconds. So runner with the bib 394. There's Vincent Nanego, so a 61 earlier this year. But some of these athletes, he's pretty much an out-and-out pacemaker, isn't he, Richard? Some of these athletes that they make a career out of setting the pace, and it's for them to be so trusted in the early stages. Samuel Marley's another one up there that he's a world medalist himself, and that's the quality of pacemakers that are needed to be at the front to run that 61-minute half marathon split.
Yeah, incredibly fast pace. 61 minutes is what they've asked for, and yeah, we can see that the red vests on the right and left of the screen, 391, 394, and also in the middle, 393. Those are the 3 pacemakers, and Kenenisa Bekele has gone out very fast. In the press conference 2 days ago, he was saying that he wasn't in peak shape, but he's clearly decided he's going to sit right on the back of that front 3 group.
In the middle of that group is the third of the pacers in the NN singlet, that's Eric Sang. So we 7th place in Amsterdam just a few weeks ago, 2:07.50. It's a sub-60-minute half marathon runner as well. But as you say, Kenenisa Bekele, at the age of 42, he's the World Masters record holder, but he said he's not done yet. And he, every time we write him off, every time we think he's not in shape, he comes back again. But it's a tall, tough order today, just given the quality of runners. And the leading women, we will try and pick them up as they go, because the sheer number, the sheer volume of runners around them, they're going to be very good. Almost don't want to call them club runners, at the pace that they might have to be running to be thereabouts the lead female runners. There could be some national records set in the male division around the lead women, Richard.
Yeah, I think there we see on the right of the screen Mageto Alamu. She is the leading female, and it's going to be interesting to see whether any of the other women are going to try to go with her. I think just behind her at the moment is another Ethiopian, Tiruyu Mesfin, in the white and orange of the NN kit. But Mageto Alamu, she's got the best time, 2:16.34, and has been so consistent over the last 2 to 3 years. And so she is probably the standout favourite in the women's race. And we were hearing that she's going to attack that course record, 2:14.58, set by her compatriot Amana Bariso 2 years ago.
Yeah, Alamu's record is just phenomenal. Top three finishes in London. So she's really looking for that big marathon victory, and that personal best 2:16.34 set in London this year. And that's the depth of women's marathon running right now. And it is moving on week by week. But there were some talks yesterday about Alamu pacer, having a personal pacer going at 2:14, and this morning word on the grapevine that she could be looking at 2:12, Richard. So that really would be some fast early splits, and that really would smash a few minutes off the course record.
Yeah, I think when Tigges Dassersverb set the world record 14 months ago in Berlin, 2:11:53. I think it really started to get people to rethink the way marathon running was going to be run, particularly on the women's side. Of course, that world record has since been surpassed by Ruth and Chepngetij's incredible time in Chicago just 2 months ago, 2:09:56, the world record now. But yes, over the last 12 months and more, so many female athletes and their coaches have had to really rethink what their goals are, and I think Megatu Alamu falls into that group with the best time 2:16:34, and that's why she's now starting to talk about times of around 2:12, 2:14.
So on the screen in front to us, Sebastian Sare is the athlete to look out for today. Outstanding half marathon runner. He knows Valencia very well, second place in the half marathon behind that world record of Kajelcha just a few weeks ago, but making his debut today. We've said it previously, Richard, just because you're a great or world-class half marathon runner doesn't mean the step up is easy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily happen automatically.
Yeah, I think why a lot of people are talking up Sebastian Sare's chances are because he is coached by the great Claudio Berardelli, who has coached so many great runners to big marathon wins. He looks after Evans Chebet, Benson Kipruto, Amos Kipruto. All of them have won big marathon majors in the last few years, and Claudio himself has been saying that Sebastian's preparation for this race has gone to plan. So Claudio knows exactly what good shape means, and we are expecting good things from Sebastian, although we have to say, because it's his first marathon, he'll be going into the unknown once he goes past the halfway point.
Jackie there on the screen, 2:07 lifetime best. So they're chasing this Spanish national record. On the back of that group is Carlos Mayo. Again, another athlete that's making their marathon debut. Sub 60 minutes for the half. Just a little shove on the athlete in front. Just a reminder just to stay concentrated. It's a fast pace each of these groups are setting out, and it's about settling down into the pace in these early stages. So Galeta is the athlete wearing 4 in that green singlet, just behind the pacemakers. A look over his shoulder. 5th in the Olympic Games, just 31 seconds off a medal, just behind Britain's Emile Caress. What a run by the British athlete. Winning in Seville, very impressively, 2:03. And he's someone that comes into this with real full and probably looking to make another jump.
Yeah, we were in Seville 10 months ago when he made that massive breakthrough to win the race in a course record in Seville, 2:03:27. I mean, he's experienced the marathon. He's run 16 marathons already. This is the Ethiopian in the green vest, just behind the pacemakers, Deresa Geleta. But as you were saying, James, both his win in Seville in February of this year and then his 5th place in Paris in the Olympics has really given him that confidence. Interestingly, he's also coached by Haji Agilo. Haji coaching both Deresa Geleta and the leading female, Megatu Alamu.
And it's going to be interesting to see for some of these runners that did run on that very tough Paris course in August, the recovery. It was brutal, wasn't it, that big climb, as the right hand of our split screen shows the next wave of runners. That's what's needed to get the sheer numbers, the sheer volume of runners here. Just under 26,000 12 months ago, but 35,000 entries this year. There was a real buzz around the city, wasn't there, Richard, when we were walking around yesterday, and even on our jog on the park, there was just so many runners out, so many people that have said have travelled here to be part of this experience, and it really is one that is just growing year by year. Not just European athletes, but people travelling. Tourism in marathon is such a popular thing right now. The climate is just so conducive, Richard, and the pancake flat course.
Yeah, we've been here quite a few years now, James, and we've had great weather every year, and this weekend is no exception. 12 degrees, no wind, so it's very, very good for marathon running. And I think also, as you're saying, that the size of the city is such that there is this sense that the whole city is taken over by the marathon. It's not a huge city, and so many of the hotels are filled with marathon runners this weekend. Actually, my flight over here a few days ago, it was full of marathon runners, very obviously, getting off the plane and heading to the expo to collect their race number. And that's why there is this great atmosphere of excitement and anticipation throughout the weekend. And I think now we've got the second wave underway. I think there are 6 waves of runners that we'll see all 30,000 runners get off the start. But we're looking at on the left-hand side, the leading women, and Turuyo Mesvin. She is right on the shoulder of her compatriot Megetu Alamu.
Yeah, such an important point, Richard, about the hotels being full, and again, you know, saw the support of the race to the city to help rebuild, and obviously the local boost to the tourism of the city, and everything in the surrounding areas as well. So our hotel was super busy of runners, especially during breakfast as well. Bumped into Paul Graham, who his wife Clara Evans, both of them Ponty Rodents. They'll be looking for individual times themselves, but I think Clara, one of the Brits, will be chasing that world qualifying time, 2:23:30. She had a late call-up for those Olympic Games in Paris, so look out for the Welsh lady chasing that fast marathon standard for Tokyo. But talking about fast times, our 3 pacers on the front that have that job. Malu, there you go, Sang. So shoulder to shoulder as we go back to the back of the group. The Abessa Simbassa, 2:10:34. Decorated athlete, and he'll be looking to smash that in that group. There's such a large number of athletes. This looks about the 2:06 group, Richard, running around, I think, a 63 half split, and a lot have chosen to go with this pace, which is the World Championship qualifying time.
Yeah, I did see Carlos Mayo there, one of the leading Spanish athletes. I mean, there were quite a few Spanish athletes. We've mentioned Ibrahim Chakir. He ran his best time here 12 months ago, and also Carlos Mayo. So that they're targeting that 2:06. I think their pace is actually 62:30, so targeting actually a little bit faster, but 2:06:30 being the World Championship qualifying time for Tokyo next year.
Cesar Lema was such a dominant figure 12 months ago, winning by 83 seconds, then going on to take the Boston title as well. He's not quite had the build-up as he would have hoped to defend this title, because he ran so well, you know, to close in such a hard way last year.
Yes, Cesar Lema obviously struggled with injury through the summer and actually had to give up his Olympic place for Paris, and then that's why Tamrat Tola was brought in, and with Tamrat eventually winning the gold medal. So there's a nice picture on the left of the screen of number 1, Cesar Lema, defending champion, who's come here hoping to repeat his victory. But what we've heard is that his build-up hasn't been as smooth as it was last year, but Gemadou Degafa, his coach, says whenever Cisse puts on his racing shoes, you've got to consider him. He's a great racer, and yeah, they're running very fast. We're going to soon we'll get their 5K split, but yeah, you mentioned how fast they set off last year. Last year they went through the halfway in 60:33, which was very, very fast pace, and it really broke up that leading group. Today, looks as though that leading group is already starting to split up a little bit.
Yeah, it will do at that pace. Those that are going to make the conscious decision to go through in 61 minutes. Bang there on the screen, 2:08:07. So again, tucked in this 2:06 group. Just sheer volume, sheer numbers there. at the moment, but you can see by the cadence on the side, Rebezak is another one of the Norwegian athletes. Obviously, Norwegian athletics in such a good place endurance-wise. Jakob Ingebrigtsen taking that 5,000 meter Olympic title. And then interestingly, going up against Sebastian Sarway in Copenhagen. That was a really fascinating one, running in the Diamond League 1500 meters on the Friday night, and then going up against the world's very best over half marathon just a few days later. And Jakob not back to the drawing board for half marathon, but maybe a little bit more respect to the likes of Sarway, just the sheer speed. And that's probably what Sarway needs to do today, is obviously have that same respect for the marathon, because obviously stepping up, the importance of refueling. We talked about that, didn't we, Richard, on the stroll to the course this morning. That nutrition, refueling is such an important part of marathon running. You might have seen the runners there dive into the right-hand side of their race course to get their drinks bottles, so they will have a different kind of mix of carbohydrates, of what they need at certain parts of the course. And they'll also be taking on gels as the race unfolds, and that's such an important part in terms of staying hydrated, staying refueled. And missing a drink station can be the difference between holding their pace, running personal bests or even national records, and sometimes not finishing at all. But been a real change in the construction or the science behind refueling over the last few years, almost as much as there has been, and lots of talk obviously about shoe technology that over the last 5-6 years has just rapidly changed the face of the sport, but also the ability to come back and recover. There's a few athletes that we've said have already raced in Amsterdam a few weeks ago, that have raced in or paced or even dropped out of Chicago, whereas a few years ago, going to 35 kilometers in a marathon, Richard, there's no getting back off the canvas and coming back again.
Yeah, I was commentating in Amsterdam 6 weeks ago, and the leading Israeli athlete, Maru Teferi, he was in that race, ran his best time, 2:05:42, 6 weeks ago, and he's back today. I don't think he's gone out with the leaders, so he's probably been a little bit more conservative, but his best time prior to his PB in Amsterdam was 2:06:43, and I think that's the group, or that's the pace that he set off at today. On the screen now, that's the leading women, and there's about 4 or 5 of them who are together. Megatu Alamu in 2:02 in the green vest, and right on her shoulder is Turuyu Mesvin, and just behind them the third-placed athlete from last year, Haywat Gebrkidan, and the leading Ugandan, Stella Chisang. But we're now going to focus on the leading men.
That first 5 kilometer split was 14:31 for our elite men, so just a fraction of a couple of seconds shy of last year's first split. So the pace is doing a good job, and you might have seen on the screen the women's time, again just a fraction over 16 minutes. So it is quick in these early stages. The pacers just checking over their shoulders just to make sure that the group, and it is probably a group down to around about 9 or 10. Kenisa Bekele is in that group. I think another athlete trying to come back from a little bit disappointment. Mahanu Legesse, again another fantastic Ethiopian athlete. Dropped out of Chicago at 32 kilometers and citing a calf cramp. He said he had an issue 2 weeks before, I think from a sports massage, so said he was in great shape. Third in 2023 here, 2:03:16, so a podium previously at Rotterdam and Tokyo, so normally very, very consistent. And he would have been devastated to have to have dropped out of Chicago, but going again, maybe he'll look back on that, see that as just a long run in Chicago, and just hoping that that calf has recovered in time. There's our elite women. There's a lot that have gone with this early pace as well. That's a healthy lot of numbers, isn't it, in this early group in the elite women?
Yeah, well, with the men and women starting together, there's plenty of men who are targeting that time around 2:15. So Alamu and her main opponents, Mesfin and Chisang from Uganda and Gebre Kidan from Ethiopia. They're going to have plenty of company for the full distance. Interestingly, at the front of the race, there are about 8 athletes who've decided to go with this very fast pace set by the 3 pacemakers. We've got Sisai Lema, and just behind him, also in the Adidas kit, Sebastian Sawe, and then the green vest, Ethiopian Deresa Geleta, and also there Amdalak Beliu from Ethiopia. Kenenisa Bekele is in that group, and who else? Oh, Bahano Legessa, as you were saying, James, 2:02.48 his best time. So a very good, very strong group of about 8 athletes who have chosen to go with this pace. They're targeting that 61-minute time for the half distance.
Yeah, that first 5K split was right where they wanted to be. The elite women at 16-minute time gives them of a 2:15 clock in. Sherrick, the French athlete, 2:08.37 lifetime best. Richard Ringer there at the back of the group, the European champion in the marathon. That fantastic sprint finish in Munich, wasn't it, just a couple of years ago, where he really did close out the last few yards to take that title.
Yeah, I mean, the German national record for the marathon, 2:06.27, and Richard Ringer, his best time is 2:07.05. So I think they've gone out aiming for the World Championship qualifying time, 2:06.30. So if Ringer stays on that pace, he's going to get very close to the national record. There's about 20 national records that are under threat today. Not so much Kenya and Ethiopia, but Israel, Germany, Switzerland, Bolivia, Tanzania, Norway. We're going to be following those attempts at national records. Remember, the race organisers have set themselves a number of goals in this race. They're looking at course records, they're looking at the most ever national records to be set in a marathon, and they're also hoping that more than 7 women can go under 2:20. Well, they've got quite a big group of leading women, and there on the right of the screen is what's being called a chasing group, and that's Mayita Mayouf, the leading Spanish athlete, and I think sensibly she hasn't gone off with the leaders. She got a best time, 2:21.27, set I think that was set last year actually, because her best time, 2:21.01, was from the marathon here in Valencia 2 years ago. Last year, when she had already switched her allegiance to Spain, that's when she ran the Spanish national record, 2:21.27, and I think she's aiming to improve that national record here today.
Yeah, I think she'll be looking to break 2:20. I think it's Lucas Maz and Jose Jimenez is the chasing group pacers. They're looking around about 69.45 to 70 minutes, and Alex Cabares and Anthony Caio are the pacers for Group 1. And they were originally looking at 68.15 from the pacers meeting, but they've gone out a little bit faster than that. Alamu's personal pacer, they were chatting about 2:14, even 2:12 was being bandied around, but looks like they've all gone off together. We half expected Alamu to be down the road with the Chase Group 1 behind, but at the moment they're all one big group, and there's so many of the other runners around them. Just need to be a little bit mindful, especially when it comes to drink stations, that they give themselves a little bit of space to see the elite stations drink spots, because they will have access to those. The runners around them won't, and they won't necessarily be thinking about their own drink station at that point. So it's going to be really important for the elite women just to stay switched on, to make sure that they do sight their specific drink. As I said earlier, that missing it can be detrimental to their performance. Greta is the Portuguese athlete. Again, another one of those that needs to knock off about a minute from his best. That's going to be the challenge to these athletes, that their perception, their idea of what is a fast marathon has changed. You know, a year ago that was an Olympic standard. Now it's a minute off the world standard. You know, the rapid you know, increase in performance needed. It's a it just shows you the world of marathon running literally is moving on race by race. As we saw in Chicago, the women's world record now inside 2:10, and well, there's still discussions around, can someone go inside the magic 2-hour barrier in a major city marathon? And Kipchoge's done that, obviously on that contrived Vienna 1:59 project, but Kelvin's run just around about 30 seconds outside the magical 2-hour barrier in Chicago. And Kelvin was the athlete that we thought would be that first athlete inside 2 hours. But there's also, isn't there, Richard, it's €1 million on offer for someone to break that record in Valencia. I don't think we're going to see that today, but that could definitely entice someone in the future to come to Valencia to break the world marathon record. We've seen it in the half marathon. Both world half marathon records are here. They're home in Valencia, but can the world marathon record be set here in Valencia?
Yeah, I think that talks a little bit about the ambition of the race organisers here. They've already set 8 world records in races in Valencia over the last 4 years. I remember when Cheptegei came here and broke the world record for 10,000 metres in October of 2020. At the same meeting, Letesembe Gidai broke the world record for 5,000 metres. And I suppose over the last 4 years, we've seen so many world records, mainly on the road. And the most recent of those was Yomif Kejelcha's world record over half marathon at the end of October, 57:30. So Valencia very much building up its reputation as the place in the world to run records, and we're looking to see what records are going to be broken today.
The likes of Sebastian Sawe is one of those that with the speed he has over half marathon. But Kejelcha, when's Kejelcha's marathon debut going to be? Well, the speed he has on the track, but that world half marathon record was a special run here a few weeks ago. And I know athletes like familiarity, they like going back to places that they've had really good experiences. So being that he's 2.5 minutes inside the 60-minute barrier for the half, has he got his eye on the potential world record maybe in 12 months' time? But great split screen here. You can see the speed of the elite men on the left and the cadence of the elite women on the right. They are both traveling, but making it look so relaxed at the speed. The men are coming up to their 10-kilometre split, so we're looking for around about the 29-minute mark to maintain that 61-minute halfway split. And that puts them within touching distance of that course record. There is the course record holder, defending champion, Tisa Lemmer. Such a tough man of marathon running, so consistent. And if he isn't quite in the shape that he would have wanted to be, and that will be of a slight disappointment to him, because on his day, when he is in shape, he is such a great racer, and he knows how to prepare, so would have been absolutely devastated to give his place up for the Olympic Games in Paris. And that just shows the depth of Ethiopian distance running, where the reserve comes in and takes the Olympic gold.
On the right of the screen, one of the Kenyan debutants, number 12, Matthew Kimeli. We were actually expecting that he might have gone off with that leading group, but he's chosen to go with the second group. Kimeli, one of the 4 debutants that we're looking at today, but the leading 2, Sebastian Sawe and Daniel Mateko, have gone with the leaders, which we're referring to Mateko as a debutant. Actually, he has attempted the full marathon twice, but hasn't yet finished a marathon. So there's the 10K split, 29:04. So they're still just a little bit outside the course record. Course record pace 28:56, so they're 8 seconds outside Cisse Lemmer's course record pace from last year. But if you remember, Lemmer actually went out, well, that leading group last year, they went through halfway in 60:33, so probably no bad thing if they're a little bit down at this stage in the race. Very much early stage, the first quarter distance coming up. gone through 10K in 29:04.
Yeah, it's within touching distance. That was a 14:33 second 5K split. So that 8 seconds can be brought back very, very quickly, or it can also be lost very, very quickly in the latter stages. The projected time there coming up on the screen, 2:02:30, and there's a lot of athletes in this group that are operating a lot faster than their lifetime bests. So we do expect athletes to drop off this group at some point. And as you said, some athletes choosing not to go with this. Matthew Comelli, one of those. Again, coming in with a lifetime best at the half marathon of 58:43, but choosing to sit back, that could be a wise decision in the later stages. It is stick and twist, or stick or twist sometimes in marathon running, to throw caution to the wind, but in a debut sometimes you've got to find your feet, and you've got to really kind of learn the distance, learn the event. As you've gone through some of those decorated marathon runners, you know, this is their 17th, 18th, 19th marathon. It doesn't always happen straight away. There's the elite women on the screen waiting or coming towards their 10-kilometre split. Remember, they were at 16:01 through 5 kilometres, so expected around about that 32-minute mark. Matt Doyle, the Australian athlete, chasing that world standard, chasing the national record as well.
Yeah, Australian national record set by Sinead Diver here in Valencia at the age of 41 when she ran 2:21:34. So Isabel Bat-Doyle got a big task ahead of her. She's going to have to improve her best time by over 2 minutes. Current PB 2:23:27, but has got some good company around her to try and take her all the way to a new PB. I wonder if she's just got her eye on that World Championship qualifying time, 2:23:30, which is around her current best time.
So just going down some of the splits, an interesting one. Ed Chezarek is in one of those chasing groups as well. Winner of the Copenhagen Half Marathon in 2023, 5th this year in that star-studded field. Sebastian Sawe winning in Copenhagen this year, 58:05. Chezarek back in 5th, 59:32, but he'll be looking for a better marathon today. The multiple NCAA's champion, and someone that the message boards are always fascinated to see how they go. He's someone that we're looking to make that transition finally from track to half marathon to marathon. So there's the elite women's split, and it is almost identical. There you go, 32:03. So that's a 16:02 second 5-kilometre split. So again, operating right around that 2:15 pace. As the elite men, you can see, I don't think we've lost anyone of that group, Richard. It still looks as if we are healthy in numbers as the chasing group behind. Again, both of those are full of talent.
Yeah, 9 athletes behind the 3 pacemakers. Kenenisa Bekele, very prominent in that leading group. Sisai Lema, Ethiopia, and the debutant also in the blue Adidas kit, Sebastian Sawe, just on the heels of Sisai Lema. Also just behind Sebastian Sawe, that's the Kenyan Daniel Mateko. Deresa Galetta there.
Guy Odola is another one in that lead group as well. There's a lot of strength in this field, a lot of experience. Kenenisa Bekele don't get any more experience than World Masters record holder, but so many gold medals on the track, over cross country, one of the all-time greats of distance running. It's so interesting to see that he just won't hang up those shoes yet. You were saying that there's still a fire and there's still a talk, and he was talking in the press conference about he won't retire until he breaks the world record, and he commits himself again. There were reports that he isn't in the best of shapes, but he never shies from the challenge.
No, he's had so many great comebacks. When he ran that amazing time in Berlin 5 years ago, 2:01:41. I remember before that he'd dropped out of Amsterdam in 2018, and personally I thought at that point that maybe his career was coming to an end, but he bounced back with that sensational time in Berlin, 2:01:41, and then again had a few years without any big results, and then suddenly last year here in Valencia had what I would call his second comeback, because he dropped out of London 18 months ago in the 2023 marathon in London, and then he came here and surprised everyone again with that amazing 2:04:19 fourth place performance, which really set him up for a great 6 months, because he then went on to finish second in London earlier this year, and that's what won him selection for the Paris Games.
Mayouf, interestingly, there kind of leading her group. Would have thought she's almost looking around for her own pacemaker, or the pacemaker in that group. So getting some reports back that the chase group in the men around about 30 seconds, about 29:30. Another interesting runner in that group, Hilary Kipkoech, that 12 months ago he was one of the pacers, wasn't he? Cisalema taking him to 30k, and we said that day that Kipkoech could be the future, but he's chosen to sit back. I would have thought that he might be one of those to go with his early pace, but he's in the group with Ed Cesarek, with the group behind. They're still operating around the 2:04 mark, so that could close. They could close that gap, but there's Cisalema on the screen. You can look at the relaxed running style. Sebastian Sarway almost just looks in Sunday run mode at the moment. So welcome if you're joining us to the 2024 Valencia Marathon, Trinidad Alfonso EDP. So maybe your Sunday long run is just on a little bit of a hold, a pause until the conclusion of this race. Do stay with us. Men and women's races are of phenomenal standard. And, you can follow runners on the Valencia Marathon app as well, because you're a tracker, a leaderboard as well, with the various splits. So you can follow the club runners that you've got out there, the elite runners that you know, to see who's making the numbers in this super strong elite men's and women's field. So Richard, they've maintained the pace through the first 10k. This is where it kind of settles down a bit now, doesn't it? The next few kilometres are so important, that the sheer numbers, also the pacemaker, especially in this front end. In terms of pacemakers, the longer they can go, we always talk about that 25 to 30 kilometre point. If we can get a couple of paces to that, then that course record could definitely be challenged.
Yeah, so 3 pacemakers, and they've been asked to go at least until halfway, and hopefully a couple of them will stay into 25k, hopefully even 30k. Last year, Hilary Kipkoech, he did a great job. He was in the race until 30k, and that's when Cisalema, he took hold of the race and really ran on his own for the last 12 kilometres. But yeah, a very fast pace, and that group of 9 athletes who are following those 3 pacemakers, with our favourites and those 2 debutants, Sebastian Sarway and Daniel Matejko. Sarway, an outstanding record really over the half marathon distance. He's run 9 half marathons, all of them under 60 minutes, and he's won 7 of them. Most recently, that win in Copenhagen in September when he beat Jacob Kiplimo. There's a nice view of Fionnuala McCormack, 2:23:58. I wonder if she's got her eye on that World Championship qualifying time, 2:23:30.
And also is it Catherine McKinnon's national record as well. So Fionnuala McCormack is just, again, a phenomenal athlete. Again, we talk about longevity. Decorated cross-country runner that has made such a good transition to the marathon. Again, doing it year on year. So there'll be a big Irish contingent watching the feed this morning. And there's the Pontyrodents vest of Dan Hamilton tucked in the middle of that elite women's group. There's big numbers in that group, and they're operating at the 2:15 mark at the moment. And again, it does make it a challenge, Richard, doesn't it, for the drinks stations? You know, the elite women have to navigate their way through what is probably about 20, 30 athletes around them, all running at that 2:14, 2:15 pace.
Yes, you're right. I think for the elite women, that's going to be quite a lot harder. Stella Chisang, the Ugandan national record holder, coming to the race with her 2:20.23. She's one of the athletes aiming to go under 2:20 for the first time in her career. She's just on the shoulder of the race favourite, Magetu Alamu, in the green vest, right in the middle of that group on the right of the screen. Meanwhile, on the left of the screen, the leading men, they've just gone through, coming up to 9 miles. So about 14.5 kilometres done. They're going to come back past the FC Valencia Stadium, the Mastella Stadium. That's where the crowds are at the moment. But Sisai Lema and Delisa Geleta in the green vest running alongside Kananisa Bakila. There's in the blue Adidas vest Amdalak Beluyu and Sebastian Sawe, Daniel Mateko, Bahanu Legesa from Ethiopia.
Just a little look on the screen there, and some of the athletes chasing national records. Kibron is inside the Norwegian pace at the moment. Garibay, another one, Bolivian athlete, 41 seconds inside. Ari, 29.31. There's a lot of them in that group, that chase group behind, 30 seconds adrift of the lead group. There's the drink station navigated, and the relief for some of those athletes is a little discussion. And the pace they're running at, sub 3 minutes per kilometre, making it look so easy. Kanisa's got his drink, and you can see they have different ribbons on just to identify themselves. You can imagine if they all go for a table with the same drink. Kanisa Bakili there. Such a beautiful looking runner, so economical. And he almost just doesn't really think about his age, and he's still thorough in his training preparation. Just knows going to Valencia that he's going to have fantastic conditions, fantastic pacing. Sebastian Sawe at the back of that group. And, another athlete in there as well is Andak Balaus. Again, a World Championship full finisher in the 10,000 metres, and 5th in the World Half Marathon Championships in 2020. So again, a very, very strong Ethiopian athlete that doesn't always get the plaudits. 2:06.40 lifetime best, but operating much faster than that in that lead group. So this is the elite women's group. Pacers keeping that very consistent pace. We had 16:01 and 16:02 for the 2 kilometre splits, and there you go. That's why we've got a 2:15.14 projected time. Just a little look over their shoulder at various times, and see lots of different British club vests tucked in there as well. This is a marathon, and a lot of the Brits put on their bucket list of getting out to. Such an easy place to get to, various airports, and some flying into the likes of Alicante and making the short trip there. Carlos Mayo there looks a little bit like he might be struggling on the back of that group. Just a look over his shoulder. Doesn't look quite maybe as relaxed as you would have thought for someone that's running inside 60 minutes, Richard. You might not have thought that. Almost looks like he's gasping for a little bit of oxygen. There's the 15-kilometre split. So 43.03. So 36 seconds down on the pace of last year. But you said, Richard, it was quick, wasn't it, through the first half last year? 60.5, almost too quick in the end. So maybe this is a little bit more controlled. It's a a little bit more respect to the course for that second half.
Yeah, there's on the right-hand side of the screen, this is the chasing group in the women's race.
Looks like Sarah Hall to the right of the screen there.
Yeah, running her 4th marathon of the year. Ran the US trials at the start of the year and then went on to run Boston and Chicago. Chicago Marathon less than 2 months ago, but Sarah said she often trains over the marathon distance, so not that much of a hardship for her to come and run her 4th marathon, another athlete aiming to go under 2:20, but her best time 2:20:32, set in that year when she also finished 2nd in London. The leading women on the left-hand side of the screen, Magetu Alamu getting her drink, and the Ugandan athlete Stella Chisang has chosen to go at that very fast pace, operating quite a lot faster than she's ever run in her life before.
Yeah, Sarah Hall operating around about the 2:20 mark. Next to her was Paul Graham, that I know he's shooting for that time. So that's the benefit that many of these elite women get, that they've got quality runners around them aiming for similar times, so they won't be on their own as the race unfolds. And the pacemakers on the right-hand side and the elite men just chatting to each other, almost just loping along, maybe just talking about whether the pace is on where they need to be, or whether they need to subtly pick it up.
Well, one athlete we haven't mentioned is the Ethiopian in the green vest alongside Cisse Lemmer. That's Demiso Legessa. He's running his 3rd marathon today. Now, his best time is 2:15:11. So he is really taking a big chance, and maybe he's prepared much better for this race. Actually, his best time goes back 3 years. He ran that in Lagos, probably not one of the world's fastest marathon courses, but he's looking very good at the moment. But we're still at around, well, just beyond the 15-kilometre point. So that's why he's got the high number 362. Not one of the fancied athletes, Lemmer and Bekele, wearing 1 and 2. And all of those fancied runners there, they've got bib numbers between, well, the top 30 really. Lemmer in 1, Bekele in 2, Buhanu Legessa in 3, Deresa Geleta in the light green vest in 4, and Guye Adola, also of Ethiopia, in 5.
Elisimo Legessa, as you say, unknown in relation to the others, but sometimes you've got to take a hit, haven't you? Sometimes you just got to get in the lead group. He knows the shape he's in training-wise, and these groups in Ethiopia and Kenya just full of talent, and see the elite women splits come up, and it's the quickest split of the race so far. So that's a 15:50 split for that last 5 kilometers. So just a subtle pickup, but still very, very consistent running. The pacers just checking their watches. The elite women are rolling on at the moment. You can see women's course record pace 48:03. They're 7 seconds inside that at the moment. So that the race organisers will be absolutely delighted with the elite women going after this course record.
Yeah, I think there's just 2 women now in that group. There's a very big group of more than 20 athletes, obviously most of them men, and there's just 2, as far as I can see, 2 female athletes. That's the race favourite in the green vest, just behind the front 2, Magetu Alamu, and just behind her is the Ugandan athlete, Stella Chisang.
Yeah, Chisang operating way inside her lifetime best as well, 2:20. But the Ugandan has had some really good races, really good form. So again, not a great surprise to see her go with this pace. And again, a lot of them operating inside national record pace as well. So there's the elite men on the right-hand screen. The split screen really does do justice to the races, and seeing the races unfold as well in real time. You can see the beautiful conditions that the athletes have been greeted with today. So barely any wind. It's around about, say about 14, 15 degrees now, maybe even slightly cooler than that. And some good noise on the streets as well. People coming out to support the runners. They know the importance of this city, known as the city of running in Spain, and they pride themselves to look. The riverbed has a beautiful running surface. Myself and Richard, we got a few miles on there last night, didn't we, on the 5K loop? And there were loads of runners out running last night, and they won't be people that will be on the streets today. They'll be racing the marathon themselves. They'll be cheering these runners on. But you can see the restaurants and hotels absolutely bustling with people that have travelled here. So the elites, they've got half an eye on the big prize money, on the selection for various national teams, because that is something, Richard, isn't it? The Kenyan and Ethiopian selection for the likes of the World Championships. We saw that last year with the Olympic Games. You know, they were very good athletes. Tamatola, for example, not on that original selection for the Olympic Games.
Yeah, very competitive to make the Kenyan and the Ethiopian teams. Be interesting to see which of the athletes are really serious about going to the World Championships next year, next September, for the marathon. Now the World Marathon majors are so big, you know, winning one of the majors either in London or Boston, Tokyo, which will be, those are the marathons coming up in the first half of next year. Athletes have just gone through 18 kilometres. It's a nice view of Kenenisa Bekele, who's getting a lot of support, shouts of encouragement from the side of the road. Hugely popular now, as we saw in the press conference on Friday. It was just packed out with journalists who largely had come to ask questions of the great Kenenisa, why he was still so motivated to keep going at the age of 42. And Kenenisa, at the moment, looking very good, right at the front of that leading group. There's Mayita Mayouf. She ran in the Olympic Games in Paris in August.
Again, there's the splits of those chasing those national records. There's a few that are inside them, and Cormac just outside at the moment. You can see Mayouf, as Richard just mentioned, they're 11 seconds inside that split through the early stages of the race. But I do say that it is early stages, and to be a few seconds inside, the more telling point's going to be probably around about the 30-35 kilometre split, where that's where we can maybe really start to get excited. But the organisers, I do like that, the fact that it's not just about the first across the line, or just about the World or Olympic qualification, but celebrating all national records. The number of national records that have been set in the half or the marathon over the years is something very, very special. Something that we know almost with certainty that we're going to be adding to that today. So, a dive for the drinks, and a way to split in the pack when this happens. Those that choose to sit back, and those that maybe Adola there. He's one that's been sat on the back of the group, and don't know whether he's just biding his time or whether he is looking a little bit fatigued. So a Berlin winner in 2021, no races in 2024. That always fascinates me, the way athletes can almost have no races for such an extended period of time, and then just jump straight back in to the deep end. So he's so consistent though when he does race, and someone that, well, he knows how to race on the large scale against the very best.
Yeah, I think Guya Adola, he was due to run in Frankfurt at the end of October, and actually got sick just before that race, and so his agent asked if he could get a late entry to this race. That's why he's here. But actually, James, as you were saying, he is one of the athletes who seems to be struggling a little bit to stay with this very, very fast pace. There's a nice view of Kenenisa. Unlike last year, when he actually dropped back from the leading group, he's the one who's really been right at the front of that leading group with Sisai Lema and his compatriot Demiso Legessa. So the three Ethiopians behind the three pacemakers, just behind them the two Kenyans, Daniel Mateko and Sebastian Sawe. Just behind Sawe is Deresa Geleta, the Ethiopian, and then right at the back of that group we've got Bahano Legessa, Amdalak Baliu and Guyi Adola. Those are the 9 athletes. Guyi Adola, some of you might remember, had that epic race with Elliot Kipchoge back in 2017 in Berlin, when actually he had a few seconds lead over Kipchoge, and for a moment we thought that Kipchoge's unbeaten record, this was 7 years ago, might be coming to an end, but Kipchoge did win that race in Berlin 2017, but Guyi Adola, he really came to prominence then. That's when he finished second in his best time, 2:03:46. Well, that's a nice view of Carlos Mayo, projected finishing time 2:05:44. Well, that would be very, very impressive, running his debut here.
Yeah, that'd also be right around the Spanish national record as well, and that is also something celebrated by the organisers here. Jose Antonio Radalante puts together such a strong Spanish field every year.
I think it's 25,000 euros for a new Spanish record. So Carlos Mayo, he's got his eye on that, so has Ibrahim Chikia. And on the women's side, we'll be seeing whether Mayita Mayouf can improve her own Spanish record, 2:21:27. Kenenisa having a quick glance at his watch, as is Guyi Adola right at the back of that group. So it's interesting, that last drink station was actually just short of 12 miles. So the runners now, they're turning right and they're very near back to Malvarosa Beach. This is where they'll go past the 20-kilometer point, and then they'll take another right, and that will take them west back down towards the old town. So they're at 12.5 kilometers now.
You might have seen on the screen there that they went through 20 kilometers. Wait for the official split, and it was just outside 58 minutes, which I think will give them around about projected time at the halfway of around about 61:15, and so just slightly slower than the top end of what they might have expected. But again, there's quality and depth in this league group, and there's some runners that don't even look like they've broken sweat yet. Sawe looks like he is out for his Sunday run in Valencia this morning, but this is still the very early stages as they come towards the halfway point. But there's still a lot of running to go. And, the pace is doing a great job at the moment. There's still 3 of them. That's going to be really important the further they can continue into the race. Last check we had, the chase group behind were around about 30 to 40 seconds. That may have extended with the elite women as well, operating very consistently. Just the pace had just given a direction. There you go. I wondered how it was going to work when they came towards the drink station, and just the direction and support of the pacer, not just in leading the pace, but directing them for those drink stations.
Yeah, there's a nice view of the 3 pacemakers. Projected time at the moment, 2:02:34. Well, that's still very fast. Remember, the fastest time in the world this year, set in Chicago by John Correa, 2:02:44. So even if they finish in 2:02:34, which would be outside the course record set by Lema last year, that would be a world-leading time, which would delight the race organisers, sort of furthering the reputation of Valencia as the place to run fast times, but the pacemaker's doing a great job at the moment, just outside that 61-minute targeted time for the half distance.
So yeah, the chase group, Mayo's in the third of those groups, so we 51 seconds. The likes of Ed Cesarek, Henry Kipkoech, there's Tadesse is also in there. Abraham, the Swiss athlete, this is his last ever marathon. I saw him spectacularly win in Barcelona this year in a national record 2:05.01, but he also at the age of 42 deciding this is his last marathon, so he's in that chase group behind, and at the moment he's operating, I think, in around about national record pace as well. And Mayo in that third group, they are operating at 2:05.5, and he looks a little bit better than he did a few kilometers ago. And they're running around about 4:47 per kilometer, to just inside or around about 3 minutes. I should say, sorry, 4:47 per mile, and around about 3 minutes per kilometre in that third group. The fact that they're doing that in a third group, Richard, that is the depth here in Valencia.
Yeah, incredibly deep field. And the leading athletes, well, Guyardola looks to be working hard. He's just a few metres back from his compatriot, also in the blue Adidas vest, Abdelak Biliou, halfway 61.17. So as we were seeing a little bit earlier, projected finish time 2:02.34. So they're 42 seconds down on the time that Lemmer and the leaders went through last year. They went through in 60.35, but still on for a very fast time, and a good group of them, led by Lemmer and Teresa Galetta, who has actually moved up a little bit, and he's now right on the shoulder of Vincent Ngayo in 3:94, one of the three pacemakers. Guyardola at the back, working hard, but he is still in contact. Adola, number 5, running alongside Abdelak Biliou, also from Ethiopia, in number 8. And this is when the runners will, they cross paths with